Today I'm here in Andelsbuch next to the flight center, and the mountain we are talking about today is called Niedere. Niedere is a real soaring mountain. The whole paragliding area is located to the east of Lake Constance, or Bodensee in German. And also the skiing areas of Lech or St. Anton are pretty close. Some parts of the parking area can be used for camping directly next to the landing and next to the cable car. To the right hand side we see the local paragliding school. In front of us the packaging area, and if we look to the left we see the cable car. It's quite an old cable car and it takes 45 minutes to get up the mountain altogether. If we look at the landing, it is not the usual pattern with position what we find, but at the beginning of the landing field you have to do an 8 down and then get in to the field always from the western side, independent of the wind. So here we can have a closer look at the sign from the local paragliding school. 8 down to the west of the landing field, and then on the last meters of the landing decide how to put the glider towards the wind. Either come in to the east, down to the north, or around the corner to the west. A short look at a huge landing field from the air. We'll get back to the landing at the end of the video. Next to the landing there's also an acro space, because there are a lot of acro pilots in Andelsbuch. In the cable car, up we go. Here we are at the middle station. Now I am already at the upper cable car, and to the left we can see a takeoff, and also to the right we can see another takeoff. But let's have a look at the whole paragliding area now. The red dotted lines are the cable car, and as we have already seen, the landing is directly located at the bottom of the first cable car next to the parking lot. The main takeoff is up here on the mountain plateau. It is about an altitude of 1550 meters, while the landing is 650 meters, so the height difference is more or less 900 meters. At the main takeoff, the usual direction is the north or northwest, and normally only this takeoff is used in Andelsbuch. I only rarely have seen people launching at the other places, one here to the west, then a lower one to the west, which you can also use to get out to the north. This is a quite interesting one if you want to do some ground handling, or if you just want to do a relaxed takeoff avoiding the crowd. Finally we have another takeoff on the other side of the mountain, very low frequented and often only used by the local school to avoid the crowds on the main takeoff. This one is also directed to the north or to the northwest. The last couple of meters from the top station of the cable car to the takeoff we have to walk. Now to the left hand side we can see the takeoff to the west, which is about 100 meters away from the main takeoff, which is aiming to the north. So now let's walk to the main takeoff. And here we are. Actually, it's a huge hilltop where you can start on several different places, but it can be very crowded sometimes. If the weather is good during the weekend, it can happen that there's a couple of hundred people up here, and then even though this big takeoff gets crowded a little bit. The whole area is also very suitable for training top landing. You see quite commonly pilots top landing here, not in the front, but a little bit back on the hilltop. Here we have another view at the takeoff area. So this takeoff was quite easy, and in front we can see this beautiful landscape which is reaching till Bodensee or Lake Constance, how you would say in English. And directly after takeoff, soaring is also possible. It's 11 o'clock about, and the sun is still on the eastern side. Now here we have a look at the takeoff and at another pilot just getting in the air. If we look at the Google Maps animation, then we see how huge this top of the mountain takeoff actually is. A final look at this takeoff and at the soaring ridge we see in front of us. A little bit further to the west from the main takeoff, we now see in front of us the low frequented takeoff, mostly used by the local school, which is also directing to the north. Even if you don't use this takeoff, there's a big windsock on top of it, which gives a lot of orientation what's going on in the air. If we turn around, first of all, now we look toward the landing, and now to the right hand side we can see the lower western takeoff, where on the other side of the hill you can also use it to get out to the north. I think this takeoff is very attractive for people who want to do a little bit of a ground handling and then get out without any trouble from other pilots. Let's do a summary of the takeoffs now. So here we see the Niedere mountain, and this is the main takeoff. Next to it we find the upper takeoff to the west. Below is the lower takeoff to the west, and finally the second takeoff to the north. If we look at the back of this area, we find a valley also on the southern part of this mountain. The city is called Bezau, and there's also a landing, and it's totally not recommended to use this in summer, especially if there is north wind. Here we see the ridge in front of us and Bezau to the left, and the Bavarian north wind can spill over in rotors. That's why you should not get to the other side of the ridge. Deadly accidents have happened. Now let's get to the landing. And on the right hand side we see the landing field already. Down here on the western side of the landing you do the 8, and then you get into the landing field most of the time in this direction when the wind comes from the east. Very often also from top if the wind comes from the north, and in rare cases you go around if the wind comes from the west and don't fly over the cable car, which is very close. I consider this landing, even though it's a huge field, a little bit tricky because especially if the wind comes from the north, you have to land downhill. And beside of that, even though the field is huge, I don't think everybody should land all the time outside of the main box, which is located very close to the parking lot and to the station of the cable car. Now let's have a look at a landing in time lapse, because it took me quite a while to get down, and this is not very unusual. Very often there's the situation that the thermals are coming from the front and that you have to have a lot of patience until you are at the landing. Okay, I land here quite far away from the box, close to the parking and the cable car, but better to have some security towards the cable car, which is directly in front of the landing. That's how a 2.5 hour soaring day can look like in Andelsbuch. So nice is Andelsbuch in the evening. I hope you enjoyed the video.